Hey, welcome back. We're in day, I think, 11. We're down in the Lake of the Ozarks of just being on the water. God, for a while, and through prayer, I just heard him say, get on the water and preach. And I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't know for how long. For some reason, 40 days seemed to be what I felt like he was saying. But I'm just going to keep doing it until he says to stop doing it. And it wasn't planned, but for some reason, I find myself as I pray about what to talk about, it's the next thing in Matthew 24 when Jesus is talking about the end times. And the last time we talked about enduring till the end. And it's interesting because immediately after he says enduring to the end, he says, in this gospel the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, then the end will come. It's fascinating that it's almost like that happens and then the end will come, because when you talk about God's time, when you talk about his timeline, like his time, it's not ticks on a clock. It is a culmination of events that when everything is lined up perfectly, then suddenly that thing of God comes to fruition. And that is just another piece of that. That is just one more piece of this whole big picture, is that the gospel will be preached to the entire earth, and then the end will come. And that's really critical, because enduring to the end, to be on God's remnant, to be in his protection, to be a part of that peace that is protected when the rest of the world is calling you an outlaw, to be a part of that, he's going to expect you to preach the gospel. And you got to know that. And in the end, that's why you are being hunted. You're being hunted because the world is saying, look, in the temple, there is God. And you're saying, no, that's the Antichrist. Jesus is God. And that, of course, makes you an outlaw. So, preaching the gospel to the end is what will help you endure to the end. If you're not preaching the gospel, if all you're doing is hiding in a cave, it's not going to work out very well for you. Because immediately following that, like right after Jesus says, in this gospel of the kingdom, and notice it's the gospel of the coming of the kingdom. It's this idea, it's saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's the gospel of the kingdom. It immediately says, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy temple, whoever reads, let him understand, and let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. In other words, what he's saying here is that, there'll be this preaching of the coming of his kingdom, of Jesus, the kingdom of Jesus Christ, where Jesus Christ is king. But there'll be somebody else, satanic entity, saying, no, the kingdom is already here, and I am the king. So these two things contradict each other, and that is exactly what will make you an outlaw. So when you see that abomination take place, what he's saying to the people in Judea and Israel is flee. Like, once you see that take place, you need to flee. Like, don't even pack, don't get off the roof, none of that. Flee, because that abomination of a declaration that somehow that the Antichrist is God, it's the satanic empire that Satan's been trying to build. It's the Babylonian empire that began in Babel, the first empire, Babel, and then the first major empire, Babylon. And he's gone from one empire to the next. Then the Greeks, then the Persians, and the Greeks, and the Romans, and now this final empire. And Daniel saw it. Everybody sees it. So what we're looking at is a guy who's going to rule an empire, and he's going to claim to be God. And then in that moment, that's when everything really just falls apart for him, because the whole world will be divided. Much of it on his side, and they will be warring against those who are not on his side successfully. The nations who are against him will fall quickly. The remnant of God who is against him will stand for 3.5 years. So it'll feel like this war that started quickly, like in a moment, when the abomination, this war that started in a moment, will look like it's over. It'll look like it ended just as quick as it began. Israel will be under control. All the nations of the world will be under control. Anybody that stands up against him will be under control pretty quick. but not the remnant. The remnant will never be under control. It'll fight until it seems like it's all going to come to an abrupt end after 3.5 years, and then suddenly the king comes in a cloud of glory. It's a beautiful thing. So, there you go. I hope these videos are helping. It's about preaching the gospel. If you're not preaching the gospel, you're not contradicting the Antichrist, and that's really what it's all about. So, any thoughts on this? Put it in comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel with Patreon. That link's also below. Most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests and never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.